Good morning and good evening, everyone. Just give me a minute as I share this on Facebook. So if for some reason you cannot get on Zoom, the English part is always shared on Zoom. Unfortunately, we're not able to share the Spanish or Chinese on Zoom. We're only able to push it to one. So anyway, today, Waiting is doing the Chinese, and Antonio in Guatemala is doing the Spanish. So thank you to both the translators. The other translators have jokingly asked me to be sure to tell more jokes so that, you know, it will be more challenging for the translators. So I've said to the translators, I said, whenever you run into those situations, you have my permission and my recommendation to just say to, in Chinese or Spanish, you know, I don't know, he just told a joke that, you know, there's no point translating. In any case, we're here to listen to the Dharma and not jokes. So anyway, we will start with the opening recitation, which is Gyuba Rinpoche's Aspiration and Action Bodhicitta. Generating aspiration and action bodhicitta, which are the two aspects of relative bodhicitta, which is the main topic in Bodhicharyavatara. So this lies at the heart of our practice. I think I just noticed that Wei Ting might have dropped off. She is in a semi-rural part of Malaysia, taking care of her parents in part. And so she doesn't have a landline Wi-Fi. She uses like the phone. And so sometimes this happens. So let's see. Okay. Good. She's back. Waiting you're back, I'll make you co-host again. Are you able to continue recording or start recording? Yeah, start recording. Let's try and see.
It's showing recording, but I'm not sure whether it works or not because the previous time.
So you did press record. Okay. And is it recording to the computer? Did you have that choice?
Yes.
Okay. So I think it should go. Thank you.
Dr. Lai, can you grant me the interpreter?
Oh, right. Actually, just to be safe, waiting, stop recording and start again now that you're in the Chinese room. Stop the recording and start again. Generating these two aspects of bodhicitta, and then, of course, engaging in the practices of relative bodhicitta, that is at the core of what Shantideva is teaching us in this text. Absolute bodhicitta is also taught in specifically chapter 9 of Bodhicharyavatara. Therefore, bodhicitta in its two aspects of relative and absolute, or relative, conventional, and ultimate, this is then the totality of what we are practicing or we are training. Those of you who perhaps identify as Drigung Kagyu followers, especially followers of Kyoba Rinpoche, then you should know that Kyoba Rinpoche really center stages, put at the center the cultivation of the two bodhicittas at the center of everything. So, for example, in the book that recently has been translated into English, which is a collection of 30 teachings that Kyoba Rinpoche gave, seems like he was giving it one teaching at a day for 30 days. In this collection, for example, the very first teaching, he says, when we talk about transmission and lineage, what are we really talking about? He asks. He raises this question right at the beginning. He says, we talk about lineage, we talk about transmission. He says, you need to really get clear what we are really talking about here. He says, what is it that has been transmitted through this precious transmission lineage from the exalted great Vajradhara down to us? Yeah. When we say, oh, the lineage is so pure, the lineage is so good, the lineage is so fine, he says, what makes a lineage a lineage? What is being transmitted through the lineage from Vajradhara down to us, from the primordial Buddha down to us? He says, it's the lineage of bodhicitta. Yeah, so he doesn't say, oh, it's the lineage of this deity practice, that deity practice, it's the lineage of the 6 yogas, it's the lineage of this tantra or that tantra. It's not that these other things are not part of the 84,000 dharmas, but these other things, if they were practiced without bodhicitta in its relative and absolute aspects, then they are not going to take us to the destination, which is the state of Buddha. So in my kind of limited experience of sharing the Dharma, teaching Dharma to others, I can tell you, numerous times I have heard from people concerns or worries like, oh, I don't know, I feel like I cannot practice in this tradition. And I said, why? And I said, well, I have a hard time with visualization. Oh, I have a hard time with all the terms and vocabulary and divisions and subdivisions of the philosophy. Oh, I have a really hard time understanding and following that. And then, endless list of names and terms. I don't know. I have a hard time. Oh, I have a hard time with, 100,000 prostrations, 200,000 prostrations, 1 million mantras. When I hear this, such worries, such concerns expressed, now I think, oh, good news, bad news. Bad news is, first bad news, yeah? Bad news is it tells me, oh, those of us who go around calling ourselves teachers or letting people call us teachers, we have been communicating the wrong things. So people are worried about the wrong things. Oh, I cannot do prostration. Oh, I cannot visualize. Oh, I cannot remember the terms. Oh, I cannot remember the names. So no, I cannot follow this practice. I cannot follow this tradition. If people are primarily concerned about those things, that means those of us who are, supposed to be teaching the Dharma, teaching the lineage, must be teaching the wrong things because people are getting worried about the wrong things. Luckily, bad news need not remain bad news. Bad news can be changed into good news, and then it takes us then to the good news. So to change this bad news to the good news, we then need to teach the Dharma in such a way that people will start thinking more about, can I or can I not carry out the practices of the two bodhicittas? That Dharma practitioners will begin to ask questions or express concerns about actualizing the two bodhicittas. When Dharma practitioners primarily are worried and concerned, or unsure about that, then I think then and only then we are making progress. Both as students and as teachers, we are starting to make some progress. Right? If people are still primarily worried or stuck with, oh, that lotus, how many petals again? That deity, is it 6 arms or is it 8 arms? Or, there are 5 aspects to this particular point. Or within the 5, is it to be divided further into 25? When people are still stuck in the first type of worry, then, oh, we have a long way to go. Dala Thava Jebe Dra Nabar Jebe Geng Tarbadan Tam Je Gembe Bardu Jobra Jeba Tham Jege Ze Jebe Manangadan Yambe Senjen Tam Je Dewa Dan Ten Dunya Dan Nerdu Lana Mebaya Dabra Zobe Janju Rimpo Je Dobra Jai Dala Thava Jebe Dra Nobar Jebe Ge Tarbadan Tam Je Jembe Bardu Shobra Jeba Tam Jege Ze Jebe Manankada Nyambe Senjen Tam Je Dewa Dan Den Dunya Dan Nerdu Lana Mebaya Dabra Zobe Janju Rimpo Je Dobra Jai Dala Dava Jebe Dra Nobar Jebe Ge Tarbadan Tam Je Gembe Bardu Chopra Jeba Tam Je Gize Jebe Manankadang Nyampe Senjen Tam Je Dewa Dan Ten Dunya Dan De Nede Lana Mebaya Labra Zobe Janju Rimpo Je Dobra De Zang Ma Geki Bardu Lunga Izum Gewala Go Mashi Bardu Lunga Izum Gewala Go Du Derene Sundene Ma Zanta Samgi Bardu Lunga Izum Gewala Go
Sonje Chodan Soje Chonam La Chanchu Bardu Dani Gyabsu Je Dagi Jinsu Gebe Sonang Ki Drola Penchir Sanje Drupra Shu Sangye Chodan Soki Chonam La Chanchu Bardu Dani Gyabsu Je Dagi Jinsu Gebe Sonang Ki Drola Penchir Sanje Drupra Shu Sanje Chodan Soki Chonam La Chanchu Bardu Dani Gyabsu Je Dagi Jinsu Gibe Sonangi Rola Penchir Sangye Drupra Shu Manang Kada Nyambe Senjen Tamje Dewa Dang Dewe Gyudang Tempura Gyurji Dungyal Dang Dungyal Ki Gyudang Drewa Gyurji Dungyal Mepe Dewa Dang Mi Drewa Gyurji Nering Chadang Nidang Drewa Tang Nyang La Nebra Gyurji Manang Kadang Nyampe Senchen Tamje Dewa Dang Dewe Gyudang Dempar Gyurji Dungyao Dang Dungyao Gi Gyudang Drewa Gyurji Dungyao Mepe Dewa Dang Mi Drewa Gyurji Niring Chadang Nidang Drewe Tang Nyang La Nebra Gyurji Manang Kadang Nyampe Senchen Tamje Dewa Dang Dewe Gyundan Dempra Gyurji Dungyao Dang Dungyao Gi Gyudang Drewa Gyurji Dungyao Mepe Dewa Dang Me Drewa Gyurji Niring Chadang Nidang Drewe Tang Nyang La Nebra Gyurji. Durje Jang Dele Naro Dhamma Mida Popa Duji Tengun Katun Sunden Sawe Lame Shab Saju Lama Yidam Chokyong La Sowa Depso Daki Jin Jilo Gyadeng Gido Men Samlingen Rape Tong Sun Yong La Kyo Some Gyawa Durje Jang Paji Tengun Po Shabla Dodo Tato Sangyo Kyo Le Me Jin Jilo Shi Durje Jin Ningi Mun Pese Ne Gyang Semtro Dedo Dobro Jin Jilo Hong Jin Jin Jang Sampe Ma Gesa Tongpo La Yasen Choking Odunye Bema June Sheshu Dragodo Kandra Mampu Gora Gigi Jese Dadu Gigi Jilo Jeshu Guru Bema Sede Ho Min Jugin Yiki Purdane Duzun Sanje Kunjing Omoni Ransen Chogung Sun Tongse Ba Zawe La Me Shabla So Wa Zashi Bugi Jushi Medo Tari La Leji Ninde Kempade Sanje Shindu Mingde Pulwayi Dogu Namda Shinla Gyawar Sho Guzun Yongso La Me Tso Namla Jinang Sansun De Shin Niki Chu Dalu Loncho Nangsi Yongshe La Me Chogi Ngodub Se Du So Jase Wadang Chojing Shabadang Jise Yirang Kuzing Sowa Yenge Wa Chungse Dagi Chisangba Tamche Sobe Chanchu Chirungo Om Guru Dewa Dagi Nirena Mandala Prate So Semje Namki Sambadan Loye Jita Jitarwa Chechun Tumun Tepa Ye Chogi Korlo Kordu So. So we are now at the start of chapter 3. In chapter 2, we have looked at 3, you could say, or 4 topics, depending on how you count, 3 or 4 topics. And these 3 or 4, together with another 4 that we will see in this chapter is then what we can identify as the 7 branches or the 7 limbs of the what is known as the 7 branch, 7 limbed puja. The first limb, the first branch is paying homage. Paying homage with body, speech, and mind. So the act of making, like on externally, the act of making prostrations. But the physical act of prostration is only one of 3 elements that have to come together and be harmonized in order to truly have the first branch, which is paying homage. The second branch or the second element, if we count it as separate from the first, is taking refuge. If we count it that way, then we have 8 elements. But more commonly, it's counted as 7. So then you can say refuge and paying homage is together as one. The next branch is making offerings. So there, if you recall, it says offerings that are material offerings that we have been able to amass, that we have been able to gather together, as well as offerings that we produce, generate with our mind, with our imagination, as well as offerings that are basically our experience, our sense experiences of the world. All of that to be gathered together and given as offerings. Then the third branch is the branch called confession, which is the title of chapter 2. So there we looked at the 4 powers, the 4 factors that we have to rely on in order for the confession to actually lead to purification. What purification means is to do away with, to purify, to cleanse, is to remove, to do away with. So what are we doing away with? We are doing away with the
negative karma and the karmic habits, propensities. So then again, a reminder for those of you who only understand one language, then there is a period of pause or break in between. During that time, if you can, take that opportunity to let your mind settle. Don't just let your mind wander around here, there. Letting body and mind settle is the basis for all the other aspects of training that we need to do if we are serious about achieving the state of Buddha. Then, even if we are only interested in temporary experience of ease and happiness, of the temporary type, of the mundane type, then even that, it's dependent on how settled and relaxed body and mind is. So even for short-term happiness, the ability, cultivating the ability to let body and mind settle evenly is the basis as well for even short-term happiness. So then with chapter 2, the 3 or 4 branches covered. Now we begin on chapter 3, verses 1 to 4. That is the next branch, which is the branch of rejoicing in virtue. So let's read together these 4 verses. With joy, I celebrate the virtue that relieves all beings from the sorrows of the states of loss, exulting in the happy states enjoyed by those who yet are suffering. I revel in the stores of virtue, cause of gaining the enlightened state, and celebrate the freedom won by living beings from the round of pain. And in Buddhahood of the protectors I delight, and in the grounds of realization of the Buddha's heirs, their enlightened attitude, an ocean of great good that seeks to place all beings in a state of bliss, and every action for the benefit of beings, such is my delight and joy. So these 4 stanzas or verses here what you can see is Shantideva begins by rejoicing in what we can say to be the kinds of temporary happiness that sentient beings are able to reach by way of skillfully, carefully creating causes of happiness and avoiding the causes of suffering. So that is the first verse. And the first verse is talking about that. So that's what it means by, for those who are still caught in the cycle of confusion, Shantideva said, whatever happiness that I can see them experiencing, I'm glad for them. I'm happy for them. And we should, be happy and glad for that. So rejoicing in that. But then these kinds of happiness, they are temporary. But on the basis of these temporary happiness, we can begin to gain more understanding and insight so that we can progress to the second type of happiness that we can try to achieve, which is expressed in the second verse. So this is the middling happiness. And this is the happiness of, it is said this is the kind of happiness that Shravakas and Parthika Buddhists can achieve through their efforts of seeing now, oh, this is how suffering arises. This is how suffering can, be cut completely. So now in the second type of happiness, the middling happiness, there is understanding now. But this understanding is primarily applied to one's own situation without thinking of others necessarily. So it's all sometimes called personal liberation, individual liberation. This is the second kind of happiness. And Shantideva says, we should see that and rejoice in that too. Then in the highest form of happiness, that is the happiness of achieving state of Buddha in order to lead others to the state of Buddha. So this is verse 3 and 4. A careful reading of these 4 verses, to me, it shows that Shantideva is actually saying, rejoice in the virtue that results in these 3 types of happiness. The lesser happiness, middling happiness, and highest happiness. Rejoicing in the virtues. In other words, rejoicing in the skillful, virtuous causes of happiness. Rejoicing in the true causes of happiness, which is virtue, not mistaken causes of happiness. Rejoicing in mistaken causes of happiness would be to say, oh, look, that person, he's having such a good life. That's because, he is so cunning in his business dealings. Then that is, rejoicing in the wrong thing, rejoicing in the mistaken, what we mistakenly think to be the cause of this person's happiness. No, we don't rejoice in that. That kind of rejoicing, will lead to more confusion. Rejoicing in the wrong causes of happiness. Then he also rejoices in not just the causes, but also the results of virtue, which is the experience of happiness that he can see that people are enjoying. So this is rejoicing in the true, as in correct causes and correct results of happiness. Then in verse 3 and 4, first he rejoices in the result of the 3rd type of happiness, which is the result of Buddhahood.
And then also the results of the bodhisattvas in all their various bhumis, their various grounds of realization from the first bhumi to the 10th bhumi. So those are all results, fruit. Then stanza verse 4, he takes us back to bodhicitta, because bodhicitta, and specifically relative bodhicitta, right, is the cause of the third kind of happiness, the highest lasting happiness. So if you look at verse 4, at least in the English, it says here, the enlightened attitude, an ocean of great good. And what is that enlightened attitude? That seeks to place all beings, to raise all beings into the state of bliss, into the state of Buddha. So this is aspiration, bodhicitta. And every action for the benefit of beings, that is action, bodhicitta. He says, these two, they are my delight and joy. The last line in the English. On a deeper level, this branch called rejoicing in virtue, there are so many other points of training that you can understand from this. So one of them, one key one is not being able to rejoice, and instead the opposite is jealousy and judgment. So when we see somebody either creating the causes of happiness or enjoying the results of happiness, if we think that they are inferior to us, if we judge them as inferior to us, then when we see them either creating the causes of happiness or experiencing the results of happiness, we're like, it's just such a small thing. What's the big deal? We do that, you know. And we're like, you know, that's not worthy of an Instagram post. That's not worthy of a TikTok video. Come on, get alive.
Dr. Lai, can you repeat again?
I said, then we say, you know, oh, that's not worthy, you know, of an Instagram post. That's not worthy of a
you know, TikTok or WeChat post, you know. It's like, come on, you know. Then if we see someone whom we label as, you know, same as us, you know, same level as us, and either if we see them creating something, creating the causes of happiness, or we see them enjoying the causes of happiness, then we get competitive. Wow, I need to, you know. Then if we feel like, you know, this person is like better than us, you know, then when we see them creating the causes or experiencing the results of happiness, then we're like, I don't know, you know, their motivation, you know, it's not sincere. They're just showing. And this is all rooted in the Tibetan word is nga gyao, meaning me king, which is the Tibetan word for what we translate as pride. Nga gyao, me king, which is I am better. I am right. It becomes very strong, you know, this I am right. It can grow easily, like a cancer, silently, but definitely grow. Even when we're practicing Dharma. In fact, often the more we know, the more this kind of I'm right, me king, becomes stronger and stronger. I definitely feel this with myself, you know, looking at things. When you know a lot, you know, and then your judgmental mind can become stronger and stronger. So we have to watch against this, you know. Confidence and clarity in our understanding and application of Dharma, and pride followed by jealousy. It's a very fine line.
As we progress along the path, we see more and more clearly, you know, these two things as being different. Confidence and clarity to be cultivated and encouraged. Pride and jealousy to be abandoned. Pride, jealousy, judgment to be abandoned and done away with. But don't, you know, engage in like false pretend modesty. That's just for sure. That is a skill that, you know, Asians, generally speaking, have developed very well. People in US, no, they don't have that skill. Yeah, because in the US, you know, the culture, there's no culture of like valuing humility, modesty. So then in the end, you know, like this rejoicing is another method to undermine, to loosen up ego grasping, ego clinging. So then the other aspect of rejoicing is it will prevent us from becoming too caught up and too stuck in like suffering, you know. Sometimes people think to practice the Dharma, you need to develop a long unhappy face. I was like, oh, that's a real practitioner because, you know, they see suffering everywhere. You know, everything is just bad. Everything is just terrible. That's also, you know, not helpful. So rejoicing is a quality of training that helps us to appreciate, you know, both the causes of happiness and the results of happiness. So to put it in mundane terms, it's to appreciate beauty, to appreciate wonder, but to appreciate beauty and wonderment, hopefully skillfully.
So here now we'll take a short break, and then after the break, you can maybe we can take some questions, either based on what we have talked about today or from previous classes. Somebody brought up and said, sometimes it will be days later, after looking again at what we covered, and then I have questions. So now, after the break, will be a good time to also ask those questions. So we'll take a short, 5-8 minute break.
Wage Joare 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 Wage Joare
Okay, so we're back. During the break, it's good, you know, during break to get up, move a little. Sometimes we sit too much. So during the break, I pretended to be a Zen master. Why? Because in one great Zen master in the past, he made a rule. He says, the teacher, the abbot of the monastery should have the assignment of cleaning toilets. So I went to clean my toilet because I rent one of my rooms to Airbnb, and there are some guests. They left for breakfast, so then I went to clean toilet. So during the break, I pretended to be a Zen master. As they say, you fake it until you make it, so at least can start with cleaning toilets first. I think that is such a skillful tradition, because in Zen tradition, like in like Tibetan, they also say, oh, the master, the Zen master is awakened, it's like Buddha. Or at least you should think that, he or she is like Buddha. But then also this master say, yeah, and therefore they should clean toilets. Because in a way you can say, the only reason Buddhas exist in this world, and the only reason we want to become Buddhists, is so that we can clean toilets. Because the suffering and confusion of samsara is just one big toilet, It feels like there's no choice, and then it also stinks. That's the problem of samsara. So Buddhas exist, to clean toilets for those who cannot clean it themselves, and then also to show that in the end you have to clean it yourself. So, okay, let's see. Are there any questions? Questions? Comments? Complaints? Yeah, for complaints, write a letter, put it in, put an envelope, and then write to Santa Claus, put a stamp and send it, okay? There's a question about the mantra. That mantra is the mantra of Manjushri, Om Vagishwari Mum. Mum is the seed syllable of Manjushri. Mum. Vageshwari is Lord of Speech. Vageshwari. Vageshwari Mum.
Sorry, Dr. Lai, what is Vageshwari?
A Lord of Speech. The Lord of Speech.
就是 Vageshwari 就是语言。
You are in the English room.
Hello, you can hear me?
Yes. Then let's see, there's another question. Is this rejoicing part of the four immeasurable minds? Slightly different. In the four immeasurable minds, the third one is called joy. Which is wishing ourselves and wishing others joy, the experience of joy. So one example given for that is like, it says like, it's the feeling that people have when long lost friends finally are reunited. So this rejoicing here is about seeing other people experiencing either the results of virtue or creating virtue and feeling happy that they are either creating virtue or experiencing the results of virtue. So slightly different. Of course, it's connected, but slightly different. So then there's a question about, or comment about, it's hard to think of like being jealous of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas or the Shravakas, and therefore generating this rejoicing at their result or their fruit. This rejoicing is not, exclusively about jealousy. It's about recognizing happiness and the causes of happiness and letting the mind be bright when it recognizes that.
Sorry, Dr. Lai, can you repeat again?
Rejoicing is not just about countering jealousy. Rejoicing is more, the heart of rejoicing is having the ability to be aware, observant of, when others are experiencing happiness, others are creating the causes of happiness, for us to recognize that, and for our minds to become bright for our hearts to become bright when seeing that. It is said that also to show the power of rejoicing, and also skillful and not skillful rejoicing. So to rejoice when we see, like it is said, when we see, when we observe, when we become aware of like other people experiencing happiness or creating the causes of happiness, when we're able to rejoice in that, meaning our heart become like bright and we're attracted, we are happy with that, it says that the result that we get is not only the same amount of merit that these other people, when they're doing those things, get, but on top of that, we also get like the benefit of rejoicing. So like it's doubled. Even more than the person actually, who is actually doing that good thing. When you know how to rejoice when you see that good thing being done, it says you get the same, you get not only the amount of merit generated by the person engaging in that good thing, but it gets doubled or something like that. Yeah. Then conversely, if we rejoice in the wrong things, unskillful rejoicing, meaning when we see someone experiencing suffering or something bad happening to people, and we're like, yes, then it says, that suffering will be doubled upon us. So skillful or unskillful is really important.
Now, verse 5. And so I join my hands and pray, the Buddhas who reside in every quarter, kindle now the Dharma's light for those who grope bewildered in the dark of pain. That is the next of the branch, which is requesting the Buddhas to teach the Dharma, requesting our teachers to teach the Dharma. Again, Buddhas, like Buddha Shakyamuni, the only reason they exist is to teach and share the Dharma. Nonetheless, we have to request, we have to ask. Because generally speaking, Buddhas, they're not like Jehovah's Witnesses, They don't come knock on your door and say, would you like to listen to the good news of the Dharma? Now, of course, there are numerous stories also about Buddhas. It's said that every morning in Buddha Shakyamuni's life, every morning after he has had his breakfast, it says he uses his ability to see and to survey the world, it says. And when he sees that certain people are now ready, ripe, that their minds, their hearts have reached a point where they are ready to hear the Dharma and to achieve the results of that hearing, then he does go to them. But even when he goes to them, he doesn't impose the Dharma on anyone. So somehow those people need to also have the interdependence of wanting to hear the Dharma, asking about the Dharma. So this requesting of the Dharma, don't misunderstand and say, oh, somehow Buddhas, have to be reluctant to teach. No, it's not. It's about interdependence. So on our side as disciples, as students, we always have to request and ask for guidance and instruction. That is part of the interdependence that is necessary. The next one is the 6th, verse 6.
It says, I join my hands, beseeching the enlightened ones who wish to pass into nirvana. Do not leave us wandering in blindness. Stay among us for unnumbered ages. So this is the next branch, which is requesting the Buddhas to remain in this world. Here, okay, two aspects that we need to understand. The ultimate aspect of Buddhas, neither come nor go. Because, the state of being awake has no beginning, no end, no coming, no going, not yours or mine, no limits like that.
Dr. The last one is no I, no.
Yeah, enlightenment, awakened state, there's no my awakened state, your awakened state. Here, when we say requesting Buddhas to remain, we're talking about the relative aspect, meaning the awakened state taking form, taking a temporary manifestation in order to make it possible for us less developed beings to have access. Those relative manifestations, those relative expressions of the awakened state, we should not take for granted. That's why we request, oh, please stay, don't leave. We should not be saying, oh, please stay, don't leave, in a confused way, as in, oh, please be permanent, when everything is impermanent. So we're not asking for Buddhas to somehow, permanently. No, this is not about that. This is about don't take for granted these manifestations, these signs of the awakened state appearing. And so we say, please don't leave.
So then the last branch is the branch of dedication, dedicating merit. And here in this, in Bodhicharyavatara is chapter 3, verse 7 to 10. So let us read together these. Through these actions now performed and all the virtues I have gained, may all the pain of every living being be wholly scattered and destroyed. For all those ailing in the world, until their every sickness has been healed, may I be myself become for them the doctor, nurse, and the medicine itself. Raining down a flood of food and drink, may I dispel the ills of thirst and famine. And in the eons marked by scarcity and want, may I myself appear as drink and sustenance. For sentient beings, poor and destitute, may I become a treasure ever plentiful, and lie before them closely in their reach, a varied source of all that they might need. So this section on dedicating merit, verse 7, you can say, is the main kind of dedicating of merit that we should do, which is dedicating the merit that we have and the merit that we see anyone have. It doesn't matter, actually. You can also dedicate merit that is not yours. Buddha taught this. Main thing is when you recognize that there is merit, that there is good, you dedicate that to what? To the attainment of Buddhahood of all beings. So this is indicated in verse 7 by saying, may all the pain of every living being be wholly, meaning completely scattered and destroyed. How is that possible? That is only possible if they achieve the state of Buddha. So this is the main dedication that we should do. And so then in verse 8 and 9 and 10, 8, 9, 10, the dedication is towards like less ultimate forms of freedom from suffering. But nonetheless, I think it's very interesting and important for us to notice not only does Shantideva dedicate merit towards the ultimate result of complete freedom from confused existence, but he also dedicates merit to beings be freed from the temporary sufferings that they are experiencing. So here he says, for all those ailing that are sick in the world, until their every sickness has been healed, may I become for them the doctor, the nurse, and the medicine. So towards the sick. So what it means, like he says, that we also should do what we can to help those who are sick, who are suffering from illness, whether being their doctor, their nurse, or their medicine. Then 9 is providing food and drink, basically for those who are hungry and thirsting. We should dedicate our merit for them to not be hungry and thirsty. Then 10 is about, wealth, and say, and to those who, lack wealth beyond, they might have food and drink, they might not be hungry, but if they lack wealth to also do other things, may my merit provide them with wealth as well. So this is a very good reminder that, as Dharma practitioners, we should not just, dedicate merit for enlightenment, but then we're not doing anything to help people when their life is threatened by illness, or when they are experiencing hunger and thirst, or when they don't have any ability to kind of meet not just the basic needs of having life and having food and drink, but also other things. So to me, these 3 verses of dedication here is a powerful reminder to us that we should do what we can, to help others in these 3 areas. How to preserve and protect their lives. How to make sure that beyond that, they are not experiencing hunger and thirst. And beyond that, the third one, that they have more than just making ends meet. That these are things that we want. These are also things that others want.
Then, of course, ultimately what we all want is freedom from suffering in a complete way. And that is verse 7. But we should not just, like always be talking about ultimately. Both short-term needs and happiness and long-term needs and happiness, if we understand the principle of interdependence, if we understand the principle of cause and effect, if we understand the principle of skillful actions, then we can bring about both temporary and lasting happiness. So these 7 branches, these 7 limbs, 7 branches, they are a basic fundamental kind of practice. And here they serve as the ngondro, the basis, the preliminary, what goes before, literally ngondro. Dro is to go, ngon is beginning. What goes first at the beginning is having these 7. Then this becomes like a vessel for holding bodhicitta, which is what Shantideva will teach for how to generate relative bodhicitta in a formal way, which will be in the next section. Again, for Drigung Kagyu people, in the earliest biography of Kyopa Rinpoche, a very unique biography, very unique, really. I'm not just being partisan. Very unique because it's a very honest biography. It's not like filled with, all fancy things, The Lama is so perfect. This biography is really unique. But in his earliest biography, you don't get a lot of like specific practices that he did or he taught to others mentioned like by name. Right? You don't get a lot of that. But one of the practices that turns up again and again in his biography is the practice of these 7 limbs, these 7 branches.
So this is the book, the translation of his biography. For those of you who are interested, you can take a screenshot right now. Technology. Not an easy read, but really, really a lot of good stuff in there. I have started to go through this biography with my Wednesday night group. So in here, it says that when he first arrived at Pamudrupa's community, first he, when you first arrive at any place like that, especially he traveled so far away to come, so he had very high expectations of how that community is. But it didn't take long before, he was disappointed. So in one incident, he got disappointed with the community because he felt that one of the best disciples of Pamudrupa didn't live up to Jigten Simgun's expectation. Then he's thinking, oh, this so-called senior student is like this, Then it turns out probably everybody else is only so-so. It's hype, as they say. It's just exaggeration. I came all the way, Turns out they are just no better than me. He felt like that. He says, if the best of them is such a cheater, then the rest of them are even worse. And this is because he when he came from Eastern Tibet, he brought a couple of things to sell to kind of raise some funds for his needs. Then this senior monk said, I would like those 2 bags. And then, maybe out of again, for whatever reason, he maybe he wanted, Jigten Sumgön wanted to show that he's not attached. He said, oh, then you just pay me what you want. So then this senior monk just give him really little, Then he was really upset. He said, oh, gosh, this guy is taking advantage of me. So because of that, but it is said that he quickly realized that, oh, this is a fault. Then he went to each of them, the whole community. It says he went to each community, each person in that community, there's over 500 of them, and he, in front of them, he visualized them as the Yidam deity, and then he did the 7-fold puja and apologized to each of them.
And then it says, whenever he's doing things like collecting firewood, like doing the daily chores that he needed to do, he also recited the seven branch puja. Whenever he went to receive teachings, when Pamadrupa is giving teachings, he would go there earlier so that he can, settle and repeat the seven branch puja many times as he can to prepare his mind as a mundra to receiving the instructions. Yes, so these are the seven branches, and Shantideva has laid them out here. So today we will stop here. Then in the next class, which is next Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, the first part of generating bodhicitta is a discussion on lojong, training the mind. Training the mind, meaning training the limited mind so that it can become a limitless mind. Or another way to put it, training the self-centered mind into a other-centered mind. So today we will end here. Again, we can also reflect on, read back. Then next class, if you have questions, right after we come back from the break of each session, we can take some of the questions from previous weeks if there are any. Again, I'm, really grateful, glad that we are able to spend time together on this really amazing material. So may we continue to remain interested and then have the karma to complete this text together. Changchu semcho rinpoche magye panam ge gyu ji ge ba nyam pa me pa yang go ne gong du be wor shu. For those of you who are ethnically Chinese, happy double fifth, which is this Monday. It's the dumpling festival. Not the dumpling that that you wrap with the flour. This is sticky rice with bamboo leaves. It's this coming Monday. Also, dragon races, dragon boat races are also part of this celebration. It's the 5th day of the 5th month, so it's called the double fifth. Okay, Tata.
Thank you.
Gracias, Dr. Lai.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Gracias.
Yes, yes. Bye-bye. Good night.
Thank you.
One
See you on Tuesday. Thank you,
yeah.
Shantideva.
Thank you. Bye-bye, Dr. Lai.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lai. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Lai. Thank you. Lee, well, it's actually, some people call him Dr. Lai, some people call him Dr. Lee.
Yeah, Lai Lee, doesn't matter. As long as I know you're talking to me and I say, oh, yes, yes, yes.
I had my microphone on.
You can just also, oi, like in Malaysia, we call people, oi.